remember the exact details from when the well was drilled, which might be years ago. He might know the approximate depth and a few other details, and he might even know what's under the ground on his land. But that may be completely different from where you want to drill. There are several sources of groundwater data, regional hydrogeological maps, and published and unpublished reports. The most accurate source of information is to get a water well record for your area. In Alberta, there are more than 300,000 water well records available. Now, the phone book may seem like a good place to start. After all, you'll need a drilling contractor to drill the well, and they should know the area they're drilling. Fact is that drilling contractors do have some information, but not necessarily a complete picture. They're in the business of drilling wells, not in the business of groundwater management. You should look to an organization that maintains detailed information related to groundwater.
Good morning, Motec. Lori speaking.
A phone call can put you in touch with an extensive source of information.
Motec is a groundwater monitoring company that collects and synthesizes groundwater monitoring data. The services Motec can provide for an individual are to supply them with a water well driller's report of their water well if they do not have one. We can determine if there are problems or what the problem may potentially be with their water well if they feel they are having a problem. Motec can give the individual names of contractors that will do work on a water well or that can drill a new water well for the individual. Motec will also provide long-term monitoring services to see if there is any effect on their water well from outside sources. It'd be a benefit for the individual to phone Motec. We do have the records of surrounding water wells in the area. It will give us an idea of what the completion of a well should be and what the potential for groundwater in that area is. As well, we could supply that same information to the driller who could take a look at it and give him a better idea of what to expect while drilling the water well.
All of this information may still not answer the question of why you do not have a working well at this moment. So then, how is this information important when troubleshooting your water well? Measure the non-pumping water level with a water level tape. If the level is similar to what's on the driller's report, then the supply of water from the aquifer is not the problem. This narrows it down to a problem within your well. Now, turn on the pump. If your pump is working properly, then the water level should drop. If the water level drops to a lower level than when the well was drilled, then the problem could be with the slots in the liner casing. They could be fully or partially blocked. If the slots are plugged, then the well needs to be serviced by a drilling contractor. If the non-pumping water level is significantly lower than when the water well was drilled, then the aquifer is most likely being depleted. This situation develops when more water is removed from the aquifer than is being recharged to the aquifer. A water well must be licensed if it is used for anything but domestic use. Drilling contractors must indicate this before they drill a well. Another duty that Motec fulfills is to extensively monitor industrial wells on an ongoing basis. This information on the results of each well is added to the already extensive database that is at your fingertips. This continual monitoring is a major prevention against potential problems, such as the overall effect the new well will have on surrounding wells, both at startup and over the long term. The data protects you, the well owner, from overproduction of an aquifer, and industry from accusations of depleting an aquifer. And you as the well owner should be aware that groundwater is a renewable resource and thus must be properly managed.
Groundwater is a resource, and it is a renewable resource in the sense that the water comes from the land surface and it's continually fed from the land surface due to precipitation, rainfall and snow, and it moves through the subsurface and will eventually make its way to a well. So there is an ongoing supply of new water coming into the system. But we also need to think of groundwater as being a very vulnerable resource. where it's very susceptible to contamination. Sources of contamination anywhere along the pathway from the land surface to the well may contaminate that water and make it unsuitable for drinking, or unsuitable as a resource. And that contamination, in many cases, can last for very long periods of time and be very expensive to clean up.
Let's look at a different problem. You go for a drink of water and notice a peculiar smell, like they've just put an oil well, sewage tank, or septic tank right in your backyard. It is often the case that many well owners unknowingly blame what they see as the obvious culprit. Oil and gas companies go to great lengths to ensure that their drilling operations do not interfere with any groundwater sources.
Contamination, in a very loose sense, does not necessarily need to be man-made. Groundwater may be of unsuitable quality for people consuming the water, simply due to a lot of natural processes, such as leaching out of various chemicals or ions in some of the overlying deposits, or may come in contact with some brines or salty water very deep in the subsurface, which might make it unfit for consumption. On the other hand, there are a variety of man-made sources of contamination that may inadvertently make their way into the groundwater system, and the contaminants are quite often transported along with the water as it moves through the subsurface.
There is no easy way to track the source of that smell in your water. Sulfate-reducing bacteria are not identified by a standard bacteriological analysis.
If you do notice that there is a smell in your water, or maybe the water has become cloudy, it may be just the fact that it is your own water well, not necessarily something else from an outside source. The sulfur type smell that you may get could be a result of lack of use of the water well. The water being dirty or cloudy may be a result of a hole or a crack in the casing in the well, which would allow water from an upper zone to go down into your water well. The best way to get rid of the sulfur-reducing bacteria and the sulfur smell in your water well would be to chlorinate the water well. And it would be a good idea to maybe chlorinate that well once a year, just to try and ensure to keep that down. It's not necessarily something that has happened down the road, be it your neighbor or an oil company or any other type of industry which may be the cause of the problem in your water well. It'd be best to look at your own water well first and investigate from there.
This could also explain why your water has decided to take on another color from what you've come to expect. Groundwater management is common sense. Step 1. When planning to drill a water well, know as much as you can about the groundwater available in your area. This information can be obtained from an organization with a groundwater database. Step 2. When contacting water well drilling contractors, ensure that you are approaching only qualified people. Step 3. Ensure that the well has been properly drilled. If you have any questions, retain the services of a professional hydrogeologist to review the technical data. Step 4. Keep your driller's report. Step 5. Remember, groundwater is a renewable resource that must be managed. Do your part by helping to protect the resources. Step 6. If any problems occur with your well, follow the steps in this video or contact a groundwater monitoring company. Most times a solution comes in the form of a friendly conversation over the phone. For more information on groundwater as a renewable resource, contact Motec at 1-800-GEO-WELL. That's 1-800-436-9355.